From an office time perspective, Intent's like having an extra man in the room. We're able to develop more, develop better, develop quicker. So in that regard, it's a time saver, it's a cost saver. Where it's also a time saver is the fact that it helps us drive our own internal standards. We define the templates as to how a project is to be carried out, and it's not possible to deviate from that template unless we want to make a judgment to do so.
Hi everyone, Skulk and Gareth here from Intent Architect. As always, Gareth is calling in from Amsterdam, and I'm calling in all the way from Cape Town in South Africa. And we're very excited to welcome you guys to another Intent Architect case study interview. Joining us today is the Managing Director at Happen Software, Andy Ross. Andy is calling in from Tunbridge in the UK. Welcome, Andy, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So just to quickly introduce Andy, Andy has more than 30 years experience as a software engineer, CTO, and business owner. He has founded multiple tech and software businesses and has represented various international companies at director level, such as Compact International. Happen Software is one of these businesses that Andy founded. They've been around for more than 12 years, and essentially they build bespoke software systems for multiple companies across various industries across the UK and Europe. So Andy, maybe for starters, and before I hand you over to Gareth, do you mind giving us a high-level feel for what you guys do at Happen Software?
Of course. We create custom software solutions to help our customers define and manage their workflows. Our specialisation is definitely in workflow management systems, not limited to, but we effectively remove barriers to growth for our customers.
Perfect. Andy, I just wanted to say, we've been working with you guys for closing in on probably almost a year and a half now. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys and quite a journey as well. Maybe we can just start, the conversation between us. Maybe you can tell us a bit about the development team that you guys are running and some of the technologies that you're using in the space in a little bit more detail.
Of course. We're a small and highly agile in the use of just reactive as opposed to a technical term company. We've got 4 highly experienced developers who all develop using their full stack, their wide stack. We're all specialists in .NET, but also all fully capable in various front-end technologies as well.
Great, yeah. So maybe you could tell us a little bit around some of the problems that you guys were facing initially, maybe some of the strategic initiatives that you guys had, and give us a perspective on that before you guys brought Intent Architect into the equation.
I'd say one of the biggest challenges we had was meeting the constant demand to evolve and refine and define our standards. And one of the benefits I've really found with Intent is it's made the management of that for me so much easier. No matter how hard we would try to make sure we maintain to our own standards, it was too easy for various projects to actually start veering away from the centre line.
Yeah, it's a very, very common problem we see in the space. Where did you guys initially bring Intent Architect into your organization? I think, if I recall, it was on one of the it was on a fairly large application. I think initially that you guys brought Intent Architect in using, if I recall, it was DDD orientated microservice architecture. Is that right?
Very much. To name the product, it was the pitch sports applications, mobile applications.
Okay, great. And what did you see? I mean, what are the outcomes that came out as part of that introduction of Intent Architect?
This is going to be quite a long answer, really. The suite of applications, we have 3 applications in the mobile space, and all of them perform a very similar function. All of them have the same underlying architecture. So we desperately wanted to maintain a consistent approach across all 3 to really leverage from being able to develop once and reuse the same kind of functionality across the apps.
Yeah, and what did you see as the main benefits that the platform brought to the table for the team and maybe for the organization in general. Yeah, and maybe when you say a piece of cake in terms of just making sure that it follows the standards, in terms of the velocity, what did you guys see there? I mean, was there an increase in that space? What was the kind of more tangible benefits that you guys saw?
The big thing was to use an old school term, copy and paste. We literally could take code from one application that needed to be in another application and know that it would work. It effectively carried out a certain amount of unit testing for us without us having to define unit tests.
Yeah. Okay. 100%. I mean, in terms of where you see Intent Architect, I mean, the role that it's played in the business so far, where do you see it? What kind of role do you see it playing, at least in Happen Software into the future?
Okay. I'm in danger of sounding like an Intent fanboy here, but every project that we start now, the intent is to use Intent. There has to be a good business case for us not to actually use Intent on the project. Yeah,
and I mean, if you guys were to kick off a new project, what impact would you see Intent Architect having in that domain?
Easily reducing the scaffolding down to hours rather than days on a large project, for example.
Yeah, and I mean, if you had to extrapolate that into over a year or 2 years, what kind of impact would you expect to see there?
From an office time perspective, Intent's like having an extra man in the room. We're able to develop more, develop better, develop quicker. So in that regard, it's a time saver, it's a cost saver. Where it's also a time saver is the fact that it helps us drive our own internal standards. We define the templates as to how a project is to be carried out, and it's not possible to deviate from that template unless we want to make a judgment to do so.
Yeah, I think another question that I wanted to just ask you is, in terms of you guys have obviously made the investment in Intent Architect in terms of getting it set up for your standards, for your guys' environment and your guys' architecture and technology set. Now that is set up, if we were to, kick off a client came to you, said that they'd like to have a new application built for them, based on the non-functional requirements, the architecture that you guys have set up met those requirements. If you were to, from a confidence perspective on how quickly you'd be able to achieve that for them and the quality that you guys can expect, what would be your take on that, in terms of that conversation you'd have with that client and your expectations in the back of your mind?
I would be supremely confident that we would be able to meet and exceed client expectations. Obviously, that's quite an open question. But Intent does give me improved confidence that we can meet standard business requirements with ease.
And in terms of the things that are the most important for you, would you say standards and making sure that the quality in the applications is pretty much the highest priority for you on your side?
That it goes hand in hand with the time saving, obviously. But I'm really impressed with how easy it is to ensure standards are maintained.
Yes.
And I'm talking about our house internal standards. We hold ourselves to quite a high level.
Yeah. And if you had to try give like a, thumbsuck, a guesstimate of the kind of time that you would save over the course of, if you had to traditionally build the application, and let's say that application would take a year in the traditional sense before Intent Architect, what kind of expectation would you have if you were to redo that, if you were to get a chance to do it in parallel, but with Intent Architect?
Okay, so you say a year. If we are we talking, say, a 200-man day plus?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just as an example, if we were to look at, even as a percentage of that, what kind of time savings could you expect?
Quite easily, 25%, 33%.
33%. So you would estimate that you'd probably be able to knock off even 4 months of that if it was a project that probably would have taken a year. Okay.
Yeah. As I say, Intent is for us with the four-man development team. It's an extra man in the room.
Yeah, Andy. So one of the questions I had around, your experience with Intent Architect is you've obviously been in the software space for many years now. You've seen many things. Firstly, is there anything that you've come across that really is very similar, or at least compares to Intent Architect? And how would you compare it to anything in that space?
Long answer again, I'm afraid. Gareth. I've seen many tools come and go that I found either do not live up to promise, or remove the developer too much. It abstracts them away from the actual coalface of writing the code, causing inevitable maintenance and support issues down the road. Intent is none of these things. It's enables a senior to manage the templates that we use in the projects, and we can throw a junior at a particular task without them having to get across the whole product that they're working in, which is nothing that we've been able to do before.
Yeah, great. And I mean, just on that, in terms of bringing juniors in, are they able to operate at a higher level than you would have expected them to, if they were introduced without Intent Architect?
Without a doubt. It gives us time to expose juniors to just small tasks on a larger project. So to some extent, it's not something I've thought about until you asked that question, if I'm honest. But to some extent, Intent becomes also an exposure and training tool to enable somebody to slowly get familiar with a very large project.
Because I think traditionally speaking, people arrive on a project and then they spend all this time ramping up, trying to understand the architecture, and it takes a long time before they're able to add value in that space, which we've seen throughout the industry. And I think it's what we've also seen there is as you mentioned now, the training side of things is that guys actually start to understand their architecture so much faster. I mean, has that been your experience?
Everybody knows exactly where they stand. One of the first questions I get asked by a member of the team when they're being asked to move on to a new question is, has it been intensified? So we've coined that term, so you owe me money if you use it.
Well, I think first from you guys, that's for sure. I love that. Well, Andy, I just wanted to say thanks so much for joining us today, for being part of this case study. As I mentioned, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys, and I really appreciate your support. Thanks very much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.